Hey everybody, welcome back to the Curious Cabinet. So today we're going to do something fun and make a design based off Native American folklore called the Skinwalker. I wanted to start off with a story to give some context to our creature. My friend Bobby told me about a time when he was camping out in the mountains around Santa Fe, and he saw himself a Skinwalker. One terrible foggy morning, Bobby told me he went out to a nearby town to grab a bundle of firewood. He'd been camping there for a couple of days and ran out. After picking up the wood from the shop, he loaded up his truck and started to drive back to the campsite. When he pulled onto the mountain trail up the road, he saw a figure running towards him through his side view mirror. Said it looked like a roughed up coyote, but it was going 35 or so right beside him. He started to freak out and hit the pedal faster. When he looked back, he swears he saw the coyote was running on 2 legs and was wearing what Bobby said looked like buckskin pants. The beast tried to take swipes at the car. He didn't believe it, and an instant later, it was a person wearing coyote fur keeping pace with his truck. He pushed on faster, and when he looked back again, it was gone. Okay, so first of all, fuck that. Poor Bobby, what happened to him? Did he get back to the campsite? I would have just left that place as soon as I saw that thing. This story is really fun. Skinwalkers are awesome folklore. They have a lot of different ideas to them. You know, different people have different beliefs in what exactly skinwalkers are. The basic premise is that skinwalkers are people who have the supernatural ability to transform into animals. And so this is sort of that shapeshifter legend. You see this around the world. This is particularly Native American folklore. But, you know, werewolves, things like that, sort of all have these similar themings that the Skinwalker does. But I think that the Skinwalker is pretty interesting in terms of the stories that people tell about them. So one of the first things is the Skinwalker. It's a member of the tribe, and they tend to be shaman or high priests, and they have to wear the pelt of the animal that they want to shapeshift into. So if they wanted to gain claws and like sharp teeth that they might use for hunting, maybe speed, they could put on a coyote's pelt and transform into a coyote creature. I, with my character, didn't want to stick to just one animal because I figured the cool thing about this folklore is that because they put on these pelts to transform the creature, like maybe they can mix and match pelts. Maybe they put on sort of pants made out of a deer, or leg wraps made out of deer skin, and a pelt on their head that's a wolf, like a hood, or a coyote. So that's kind of where the direction I went with my character, is that he's sort of an amalgamation of different animals. He's got these coyote ears, the big fluffy fur at the top, but he's got these hooves like deer or something like that. So I think one of the coolest parts about the Skinwalker myths is that the shaman who become skinwalkers actually lose their humanity every time they put on the pelts and transform into a beast. It's kind of like this man turns a beast and eventually loses himself. So if they do it too many times, they just become monsters and begin attacking their own tribe even. Some people believe that speaking about the creatures attracts them to you. So if you find someone who's very superstitious or believes in this, they won't even want to talk to you about it, which is maybe why you're hearing so little information about what exactly they are or who they are. Part of my design, I put a mask on the creature. I felt that it hid his humanity. You can't see a face to this creature, even though he has a human-like body. It doesn't feel human, especially with that mask on. One of the things that I thought was absolutely terrifying about these creatures is that they can call out to you in a familiar voice. So they might mimic one of your family members. But that just makes me imagine a situation where skinwalkers have taken over Disneyland and they just all have a bunch of Disney character voices. Like you just see Goofy coming at you like, oh gosh, but it's just this horrifying shaman beast creature with a knife coming to stab you. And apparently Skinwalkers are really popular. There's a whole Reddit page dedicated to people telling Skinwalker stories. And it's just so strange how so many people can have the same sort of experience of these. It's usually something around, they hear a noise in the night, they come outside, they see some sort of coyote, and then just gets up on two legs. And it's just interesting that there's so many people that have had that experience where there's an entire Reddit based around it, and all of them are just shitting themselves. Folklore is an awesome way to design characters because it does some of the work for you. You can always come up with your own stories for characters, but sometimes it's fun to try and make a design based off of stories that we already know, and I think they can come out to be pretty unique and interesting creatures once you design them. Especially when you're trying to, I really want to, with this one, do something a little different. I've seen some people do designs for Skinwalkers, and they tend to be these just like sort of zombie-ish people with goat heads or like deer heads or things like that. I wanted to make a design that felt a little more whimsical, something that could fit in a dark fantasy game that's a little light, something like Fable, maybe even something like Zelda, because those designs can get pretty messed up. I really emphasize the shapes and forms of this character to give it that sort of a little more cartoony feel. Like giving these big ears and kind of like exaggerated proportions, big long arms, and I really think that gives him. He still feels like a humanoid. He's got the human body, but having those long arms, long ears really gives him sort of a impish, beastly, goblin-like appearance, which I really like. I know these are supposed to be terrifying creatures, but I think I wanted to give them more of a troublemaker, impish kind of feel, trickster little sort of feel, especially because I like the idea of how they can change their voices to be someone that you know. I think that'd be a really cool idea for a game where you just like hear these human characters, you're trying to go and help them, and then you're just ambushed by a bunch of Skinwalkers. I'd like to see more character designs or creature designs based on this kind of folklore. One of my dreams is to see a fantasy game that's not based off the same old Nordic or Western European folklore. I've always wanted to see a game. I know a lot of games will have like cultures in the game that are based off of maybe Native American culture, but I think it'd be really cool to see a game where that's the main theme of the game, or the main folklore. Like imagine a Witcher that's based in, obviously a fantasy world version of the American plains back in olden days, and it's all influenced by Native American mythology. It'd be really cool to see something like that. You could even get some pretty cool different weapons and armor types that you wouldn't usually see in a Western themed RPG. Like I don't know what they're called, but there's like those balls on a tassel type thing that they throw and like lock your legs with. That would be a pretty badass weapon. The coolest thing about looking back into ancient cultures and mythology is that you can interpret them in so many different ways. One of my favorite franchises of all time is God of War, especially the newest one. That's probably the best storytelling I've seen in a game ever, to be honest. And looking back at one of their older games, I think it was God of War 3. Yeah, the opening of God of War 3, they had the fight with Poseidon, and usually the like depictions of the Poseidon are just, you know, naked man, naked handsome buff man, in water, maybe has like water horses or something like that. But that game just took a whole different direction, and the water and the horses were like sort of the part of this weird water body of Poseidon. It was so badass, and that's why it's so cool to try and like find these old mythologies and make something new out of it. So we're finishing up the drawing. Here is my Skinwalker. I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I'll be doing more cryptids in the future. So thank you for joining me in the Curious Cabinet.